So let's begin with our usual meditation. Motivation. So sit comfortably, spine erect, relax your body, relax your mind, which I remind myself to think, I don't have to multitask. I don't have to think about anything else right now. And there is a richness in the poverty of watching just one thing, just your breathing. You might think, oh, that sounds so boring. Place your attention, your mindfulness on the breathing in front. You may notice that it takes several rounds of respiration before you can totally focus on that alone, let go of other thoughts. Don't forget to differentiate when you're breathing in, when you're breathing out. Try to gauge the level of the coarseness or fineness of your breathing right now as a reference point, because when we meditate on the nature of the mind, oftentimes the breathing becomes even more subtle. So now let go of your attention and mindfulness to the breathing, and instead hunker down in your heart area, your heart chakra area, to the mental consciousness, although that's not the only seat of mental consciousness at all. Away from your senses, your eyes, ears, nose, taste, and tactile consciousnesses. Observing the mind, the mental consciousness, with images and thoughts and memories, plans. Maybe your ego popping up with some comment. Although that's your general object of observation, try to recognize its nature with wisdom in your mental consciousness. The fact that all conceptual activity in your mind can appear and disappear in an instant shows you that the nature of the mind is unobstructing to thought. Remember when you get agitated, angry, or unhappy, or maybe superficially happy about something, someone complimented you, or you received a gift or something, recognizing that those emotions have emerged from the nature of the mind. The negative ones we can let go of easily. We don't have to be unhappy. We don't have to be angry or compulsively, obsessively attached that causes us problems. Just understanding the nature of the mind. Place your attention on the spaciousness of the mind within which those emotions are arising. Deprive them of their energy, their inertia, by not paying attention to them. They begin to dissipate, and you can be left in a state of Dharma, calm. Ask yourself, what is the nature of the mind? What is the consciousness that is observing these thoughts? It's as though turning your attention away from the objective thoughts, the cloud-like thoughts in the spaciousness of your mind. Let go of your sense of ego or an observer, let's say. That's just appearing to your mind. Even let go of your conception of the spaciousness of the mind, which is as yet just accessed through a mental image of it. Not like a visual image, but a mental conception that we have of it. Let go of that and try to sense an even subtler level of the clarity of your mind, clear light nature. In a sense, you can label me, myself, onto this conventional Buddha nature. I'm not limited by the ordinary conception of myself. Not limited by other people's opinion of me, my own conceptions of myself, maybe disappointments or sometimes inflated, pride of myself. Free of all of those, just this potential to develop all the good qualities and eliminate all the faults. And then recognizing again that this has come about because we've, in previous lives, created the karma to have a life of leisure and endowment, perfect human rebirth. We abstained from negativity, created virtue, made prayers to be beneficial in some lives that are culminating now in this short-lived, fleeting lifespan, recognizing its fragility and its impermanent nature, make a strong aspiration to use it this lifetime and in future lifetimes when we have again this opportunity to practice the one soul medicine to bring relief in cyclic existence, the holy Dharma. I think in particular this morning, I'm going to participate in the class in order to eventually achieve enlightenment. But to do so, we need to know the three fundamental aspects, three fundamentals or principles of the path: renunciation, bodhicitta, and the right view of emptiness. So with the end point of my eventual achievement of my highest potential, enlightenment, Buddhahood, I'm going to listen to the teachings in order to achieve that goal for the sake of sentient beings. From that state of enlightenment, having achieved that, I can effortlessly and spontaneously lead sentient beings perfectly into that very same state. And then bring your attention back the present. I mentioned during the meditation that there's a great richness in this austere practice of just watching something, one thing alone, like the breathing or the nature of the mind. Sometimes we might think, oh, that's so boring. I'd like to have something, sparkly happening, lights, or, seeing videos or listening to music and having good food and so forth. But there's even in this austere practice, you might call it austere in that it's just watching one thing. There's so much insight that we gain through that we can be calm, we can be happy without the need of a lot of things, that we can develop, say, satisfaction, a sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? The other counterpart of satisfaction, not needing to have a lot of things, being, I'm trying to think of the other word. Shanka, what I'm thinking of? Satisfaction and
contentment, or
was it
contentment?
Contentment, yeah. Contentment. To be content with what you have, to be satisfied with what you have, not always looking for more. Sort of the quote American dream to a lot of people is is to have more and more, right? To become a billionaire like Richard Branson. Did you know Richard Branson's, we were discussing before the class, Richard Branson's company, Virgin Galactic, just flew this morning. In fact, they landed just before class. They went to the edge of space with their first crew of lay people in the back, pilots. So, there's some people who are, that's what they want. They want more and more excitement, to be famous or whatever. But just watching your mind, you can have a sense of contentment. You don't need all of that, all of those, the heights of samsaric happiness, what we call, Lama Yeshe used to call samsaric perfections. It didn't mean they're really perfect, but, to be the most beautiful, the most famous, the most knowledgeable, the most powerful, the richest person in the world. With an insight into Dharma, you begin to feel that your real aim is to achieve spiritual realizations, to bring about some deep Dharma happiness and the ability to help others. So before I begin talking about again the text that we're talking about, the 3 principles of the path on our Sunday lectures, anyone have any questions or comments, observations that you'd like to bring up? Everyone okay? Those people who I can't, those whose faces I can see, well, it's okay, we're okay. But those who don't have their video on, I can't tell if they're off vacuuming. Hi, Min. Do you have a question? No, okay. You just put your video on. Okay. So Lama Tzong Khapa's composition, the 3 principles of the path, is a relatively short presentation of the stages of the path, emphasizing the three most important realizations that we have to achieve to propel ourselves in the Buddhist path. renunciation and bodhicitta are both kind of motivations. I use my right hand. There are the method side. Skillful means is another word that's used to translate that. The wisdom of emptiness, the right view of emptiness is a wisdom. So that's counterpart to them. The two motivations, renunciation on one hand, when coupled with realization of emptiness, can lead you to overcome all of your afflicted states of mind, all of your delusions, what in Buddhism are called klesha. And they are the fundamental cause of our suffering. But like in the examination of tenets, when I asked about what the causes of suffering were, there are two causes of suffering. Do you know? Does anyone know? Victor, do you know what the causes of suffering are when we talk about the Four Noble Truths? We say the first truth is truth of suffering. The second is the truth of the cause of suffering. What did the Buddha say the cause of suffering is? If you're saying, you have to unmute if you're either.
Ignorance.
Yeah, you could say that's one of the fundamental causes. Like just right now, I'm saying ignorance of inherent existence gives rise to all of the delusions, which are in the same category as that. But there's another cause of suffering that's more immediate.
Is it aversion and attachment?
Yes.
They are in the category that Victor mentioned of ignorance. So ignorance is the opposite of wisdom, right? Ignorance and giving rise to attachment, closed-mindedness and anger, jealous, all of the other tendrils that come out from that. Jealousy, pride, low self-esteem, criticism, and so forth, discontent, unhappiness. But the other fundamental cause of suffering, most immediate, do you know, Shankar? Not just. Okay.
I don't know.
Karma.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Come on.
Well, but karma. But karma comes from ignorance, right?
Karma is created by ignorance, but the Buddha said, when he said, what is the origin of suffering? So the second noble truth, twofold, karma and klesha. So the immediate substantial cause of our suffering is the karma that we created in previous lives under the influence of klesha, main one, as Victor pointed out, ignorance, but as one other, I can't remember who said, Leah or someone said, also attachment and anger and so forth. All of those are the causes of creating karma, but the direct cause, the direct substantial cause of our suffering is karma. So the Buddha said karma and klesha. Karma, both maybe easier to remember. They both start with K in Sanskrit, right? Karma and klesha. You can remember that way, maybe. Actions and, when we say karma, here when we say karma is the cause of suffering, what we mean is that having created actions, negative actions, under the influence of delusions in the past, we leave an imprint in our mind, a karmic seed. And it's that laying dormant in our mind stream for a long period of time, when the right conditions arise and when it is nurtured in some way, when it is begun to get ready to sprout, it becomes the substantial cause of our suffering. So when we talk about overcoming suffering, we want to be able to, at the beginning, we work on purifying our negative karma through applying the opponent forces to our negative karma. We can actually purify negative karma, but that alone is not enough. Sometimes people do a purification retreat, a Vajrasattva. Has anyone done Vajrasattva retreat here? Bobby? Nadine, did you put your hand up? Yeah. Shanka, good. So Leah, Anna, Charlene, James, Susie, Jamie, Victor, Ida, all the rest, you have to do Vajrasattva retreat sometime, or some other intensive purification retreats, purification practices. So that works to purify the karma. But as Shanka pointed out, karma is created by klesha, by delusions, or, mainly ignorance, but all of its manifestations is attachment and anger and jealousy and so forth. So fundamentally, even if you did a 10-year Vajrasattva retreat, or you made 1 billion prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, reciting their names with, regretting the negative actions you created and so forth, promising not to do them again in the future. As soon as you leave that retreat, if there's still ignorance in your mind, there's still kleshas in your mind, afflictions, delusions, and so forth, you create more karma. So you get back. That's the skillful thing to work at. So the motivation, the right hand, motivation of renunciation, to leave cyclic existence where there's suffering, coupled with the wisdom of emptiness, is able to not only eliminate the karma, purify the karma, but is able to eliminate the delusions from our mind, and we can achieve the state of the end goal of the Hinayana path, nirvana. We can become an arhat, someone who's achieved nirvana, the state beyond sorrow. So you might, if you looked at that person, they might not look any different to our eyes. They might look more peaceful and so forth. They don't look like an ordinary person in that sense, but their minds are completely calm. Whatever happens, they're not agitated. They have no, they do have desires. They desire to be able to teach. They have compassion to help other people, but they don't have the impetus to remain within cyclic existence, working for the welfare of others until enlightenment. For that, we need the special motivation of bodhicitta that we talked about in the last couple of weeks. Bodhicitta is the thought to achieve enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings, and in order to do that, to engage in the activities that can bring enlightenment about. The accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom, especially those two. So both renunciation and bodhicitta being methods, motivations, you might say. One, renunciation, motivation to leave cyclic existence, achieve nirvana, and the motivation of bodhicitta is to achieve enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings. Both of them need the wisdom of emptiness, which is the principle that we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks. Wisdom of emptiness. Let me ask a question. Ida, emptiness in that sense, or shunyata as it's called in Sanskrit, is that very precious?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yes.
You think emptiness is very precious. So Lama Yeshe, he used to pose that question. He said, no, emptiness is everywhere. Even kaka, the Tibetan, like child talk, right? Like for excrement, even kaka has emptiness. All our delusions also are empty of inherent existence. Emptiness is nothing special. What's special is the wisdom that realizes emptiness. Everything we experience has emptiness as their fundamental nature, but we're oblivious of that. We don't recognize that. And that wisdom is what we want to try to develop. Then that is precious. That is, precious in the sense of rare. Not many people have an insight into emptiness. And it's difficult to realize, in a sense, I don't know. Let me take a poll here. Of those that I can see, you can put up your hand. Which is more difficult to realize, emptiness or bodhicitta? So I'll start with this. Is bodhicitta more difficult to realize between the two? So Chang, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, then is emptiness more difficult to realize? Leah, Susie, Charlene. Okay, James, you voted twice. I'm going to report you to the MAGA people. You can't vote twice. Are you about to say something? There you go.
I can't. I think both are very difficult.
Okay, yeah, but between the two, which is more difficult? What do you think?
Bodhicitta.
Oh, okay. There you go. So generally, we might think that emptiness is very difficult to realize because it's complicated. It's not something, when you hear about emptiness, it sounds foreign to you, and we don't necessarily have an insight into it yet. Whereas bodhicitta is something that conceptually sounds relatively easy to understand, but in reality, to have an insight into emptiness is something that we can achieve even in this lifetime. We can have an intellectual understanding of it. We can even have a realization of it. That here, the idea of realization means that we've eliminated misconceptions about it, which is usually the main obstacle to realizing something. You have, part of your mind is thinking it's this way or that way, which is not in accord with reality. We can eliminate misconceptions about emptiness and actually develop a certainty or an ascertainment of its meaning. Even though it's intellectual, even though it's through a kind of a mental construct, but it can be factually concordant, we'd say, in sort of philosophical language. It can be an understanding that it accords with the fact. We can have a realization of emptiness. Whereas bodhicitta, although we can, easier to understand what it means, it's very, very difficult to actualize. Even in meditative session, even though we might, in our meditation session, we might think, oh, all sentient beings have been my mother, they've been so kind, I must achieve enlightenment for their benefit. It's almost a little bit like, what do we say, paying lip service, or, it's just from the mouth, it hasn't really reached our heart. So that's a very, very difficult realization to achieve. But in terms of our initial take on emptiness, it seems like emptiness is something very difficult to understand, but it's something that we can realize this lifetime. So let me review the verse that we've talked about already about emptiness, the correct view. If you're using this book or any other book, this is verse 9 of the 3 principles. We talked about this before. Though familiar with the wish to leave cyclic existence, I left my other glasses downstairs. Though familiar with the wish to leave cyclic existence and with the altruistic intention, so those are the two motivations that we talked about, the first two principles, you cannot cut the root of worldly existence without the wisdom understanding reality. So reality in this case could mean emptiness or selflessness. Without that understanding, you can't even cut the root of cyclic existence. So make an effort in the means to comprehend dependent arising. So in this context, when we say that, you might say, why is he saying you need to have the wisdom to realize reality, emptiness? But then he says, so make effort in the means to comprehend dependent arising. Is dependent arising the same as emptiness? So Ida's saying, no, I subtly turning her head like this. No one else is making brave enough to, what is Shanka? Can you go like this, or you go like this, or what? Emptiness and dependent arising are the same?
They're two sides of the same coin. They arise, they're both present at the same time, right? So I'm not sure
They
they're
are both
the same.
present at the same time. You mean in my bottle of Pepto-Bismol, emptiness and dependent arising are both present?
Yes, the bottle of Pepto-Bismol is certainly empty of inherent existence, and it's a dependent arising because you know it's because of it's arose because of causes and conditions, which is one of the reasons that something is empty of inherent existence.
So if you were to say that, that would mean that anything that's permanent is not empty of inherent existence because it doesn't arise. Things that are permanent don't arise from causes and conditions.
That's right. Permanent means it's unchanging, right?
Right.
So it must be not, it does not depend on causes and conditions.
So it's
but,
not
I mean, it can depend on parts. I guess it can depend on parts, and it can depend on a label, right?
Yeah. So that's an important point. So when it says here, so make effort in the means to comprehend dependent arising. So the dependent arising, let's say, is an object of is a fact of nature. Emptiness of inherent existence is a fact of nature. But the wisdoms that understand them, or the minds that understand them, are on your side. You're understanding dependent arising, or you're understanding emptiness. They're two different realizations, two different understandings, but the text is implying correctly, and as Shanka correctly stated, I believe, one implies the other. If you realize dependent arising, you are not at that moment realizing emptiness. If you realize emptiness, you are not at that moment realizing dependent arising, but one can inform the other. They are, as Shanka said, like two sides of a coin. What are the Italians? Anyone here Italian or know Italian? They say the due facce de medallion, I think, something like that, medaglia, like two faces of the medallion. If you have a a medallion has a front and a back, or a coin, quarter, $50, something. If you slice it down the middle, you might say, oh, you can still separate them, but it's no longer a medallion if you cut it like that, right? Slice it down so you have a face and a head and a tail. So dependent arising and emptiness are intimately related. What does dependent arising mean? On the first level, as Shanka said, dependent arising means that phenomena, or that impermanent phenomena, sprouts in your garden, and the car that's being manufactured and something, everything that's impermanent arises because of causes and conditions. The pottery arises because of substantial cause of clay, if it's a clay pot. The potter, the sort of the actor that is creating the pot, the instrument, which would mean the spinning wheel and the knife for your fingertips or whatever, all sorts of causes and conditions arise in a certain sequence, and that phenomena, the pot, well, let's say if it's eventually maybe also fired, baked, or whatever, all of those give rise to an impermanent phenomena. Everything that we notice around us is impermanent. When I say notice, we notice with our senses. Our senses only know impermanent things, right? Anyone here was in our class yesterday, the lower class? A couple of people, yeah. So the senses only perceive impermanent phenomena, right? But everything that exists is not exhausted by impermanent phenomena, the things we see. There are also things that are permanent, that don't change moment by moment. They are also dependent arisings in a more subtle sense of the word. As Shankha understands and explained, they are said to be dependent arisings because they arise in dependence on a mind that understands them and is labeled on their parts. Even space, the lack of obstructing contact. That's a permanent phenomena, a permanent phenomenon, right? Space. But space has parts also. The east side of the space and the left side of the north side and the west side, it has parts upon which our mind intellectually labels that space. So in a more subtle sense of dependent arising, there are various subtler and subtler meanings of dependent arising. Dependent arising, the understanding of dependent arising is intimately related with the understanding of emptiness. In fact, one implies the other, although they are not exactly the same, like the two sides of a medallion, the two sides of the heads and tails of a coin. Does that make sense? So they're two different things. So that's why this verse is saying, though familiar with the wish to leave cyclic existence, though familiar with renunciation, and with the altruistic intention, also familiar with bodhicitta, you've cultivated that, those alone, you cannot cut the root of worldly existence. You can't even escape from samsara with those alone without the wisdom understanding reality. So make an effort in the means to comprehend dependent arising. So because dependent arising is intimately related with emptiness, one implies the other. So to understand emptiness, one of the reasonings that's used is that phenomena arise in dependence. What does that imply? Well, let's say in the subtler level here, we're talking about phenomena exist or arise, you can say, because they arise or they exist because of a collection of parts which is apprehended by a consciousness and that consciousness gives a label or conceives of that in a certain way. Oh, that's what you call a pomegranate. You know, so you don't know what a pomegranate is, and someone says, here's a pomegranate. And you see that, and you see the parts. Either it's cut open, or you can just say you see the outside, and you give a label to that, a concept to that. At that moment, pomegranate exists for you. That dependent arising. It's said that there are various reasonings that we have to develop to realize emptiness. Reasoning consciousness. The king of reasonings is said to be the reasoning of dependent arising, of the sprout of a plant, a wheatgrass, or flower sprout or something, is empty of inherent existence because it's a dependent arising. What's the connection between dependent arising and the fact that it is empty of inherent existence? Well, very simple sense. If something existed inherently, that means it exists from its own side without having to be designated or labeled. It's just there. What's the famous thing? If a tree falls in the forest, who knows the rest? Who has a rendition of that?
Can anybody hear?
If a tree falls in the forest.
Can anybody hear is the way the song goes.
Oh, there's a song.
Yeah.
Shankar, is there another? What would you say?
Well,
What's your version of it, Shankar?
tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it. Did it actually happen? Right?
Did it make a sound?
Did it make a sound? Right?
Yeah. Usually, if the tree falls, oh, the tree fell. Or if a
Did it make
usually someone's trying to say something, but I can't hear them. Anyone? Okay, I thought it was another comment. So the tree falling means that there wasn't someone who pushed the tree down. Like if there are loggers out there, they would have been aware of it. But just like in my neighborhood here, there sometimes after a rainstorm, the roots have lost their hold in the earth and they'll fall down, right? So if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there, it doesn't make a sound. That's kind of the meaning. So does that fit with you, with your song? Who is it? Doris, does that fit with your song also?
I could sing it to you if I could sing.
Oh, okay.
Susie can sing.
Do you know that song? Okay. Anyway, so the point is, there's a question in our minds: do phenomena, like say the sound of a falling tree, does that exist if there's no one there to hear it? What do you think? Nadine? Well, oh no, Leah. What do you think?
Well, I think that, so the sound is a collection of waves that aren't visible. So yes, it probably does make the waves, but if no one's there to pick up the waves, if no one's ear is there to
Before
decipher.
it's out, like say, it falls in Lancashire, England, and then in Essex or something where the waves are dissipated, even though there might be some little atoms moving there, there's no one there that hears it. So did it make a sound?
I guess it would kind of depend on your definition of sound, but it made a wave. But if our ears aren't there, there's no sound.
Oh, Okay.
maybe?
Came about it a way I didn't expect you to come. So we would say, sort of scientific, I think Leia's kind of approaching it from a scientific point of view. You would say, oh yeah, there was a sound, but even if no one heard it, there was a sound. But from a Buddhist perspective, well, we learned in our class yesterday, an object, let's say sound, is defined by that which is realized by an awareness, that which is cognized by an awareness. Do you remember yesterday, some of you who were in the lower class? So if there was no awareness to hear it, you might say there was no sound. But there's always the omniscient mind of the Buddhas. There are numberless Buddhas who perceive everything. And so you can always fall back on that. There are some spirits in the forest, even if there are no humans around, who have heard the sound. So what do we mean by dependent arising? Dependent arising means that a phenomena arises in dependence upon its parts, let's say the sound, molecules vibrating, and a consciousness that apprehends them and gives a label. One might think, my neighbor sometimes, I live in the mountains of North Carolina, so this might not be surprising to you. My neighbor sometimes drinks a bit of alcohol and sometimes goes out on his back porch and shoots his pistol off into the forest. So when I hear that, I label gunshot, So even if we do not hear a particular thing, the Buddhas hear that. So that phenomena has arisen, the sound arises in dependence on its parts, a consciousness apprehending it, and the mind that apprehends it, giving it a label, a name, or conceiving of it in a certain way. That's a subtle meaning of dependent arising. So if phenomena are dependent arisings, if they arise in dependence on causes and conditions, or in a more subtle sense, if they arise in dependence upon their parts, giving a name to their parts, or in the most subtle version, like a tripod. Do you know, as I mentioned before, you know what a tripod is? Not just like the tripod for your camera, which has got all sorts of gears and everything, but when you go into the woods and you want to make a quick cup of coffee in your kettle, you balance three pieces of wood together. They each rely upon each other, right, to stand up. Have you ever done that? You might have to, if you don't have the right balance, you might have to put some string around it or something like that. But it's in theory, you can take three pieces of wood, let's say, and balance them upon each other and reach some stability. That kind of indicates these three factors independent arising: the parts, the consciousness that apprehends them, and within that consciousness, the concept or label that's given to them. So a phenomena arises in dependence on those three elements. So that's why the verse is saying, if you want to understand emptiness, if you want to develop the wisdom understanding reality, make effort in the means to comprehend dependent arising, because that is one of the reasonings that can lead to that understanding of emptiness. Inherent existence is a misconception of reality. the mind that believes that phenomena exist from their own side without being labeled, without being, that they exist from their own side. They exist truly. What does truly mean when we say true existence? Do you know, Shanka? When we say phenomena are empty of true existence, what's the sense of true existence mean?
Well, there's a whole bunch of synonyms, but in different.
But just that word, not taking a synonym.
Well, true. Well, exists from its own. Well, it's not dependent on parts and so forth and so on, right? I mean, it's.
Well, you're using other synonyms there or other analogs. What's the meaning of when we say things appear to be truly existent? What does that mean?
Valid, not
Okay, so
yeah.
Min?
Like they're real, they're concrete, they're permanent. They don't change. They just continue onward.
Some of that, yeah, some of that may be there. It's not necessarily that they don't change, because we can see a train moving by. We can apprehend that. Our mind can think that that's truly existent, but that's changing. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean unchanging. But when we talk about truth, Ada, did you?
Maybe it's the way that things appear to us. Is that truly existent?
Yeah, but what is the way that they appear? Okay, so here the idea is this. The example I've given in some other classes, I like this. The Dalai Lama brought this up in one of his compositions called The Key to the Middle Way. He said, if your neighbor smiles at you every morning, he puts this appearance of being your friend, but every night he's moving his fence, the poles of his fence a little on your property. So his property is getting bigger, your property is getting smaller. He's puts on this false appearance. True, or is he really a friend? Is he true? He looks like a friend, like the car dealer or the politician or something. But are they truly? Do they actually exist the way that they appear? That's kind of the sense of true here when we say true existence. Do they exist the way that they appear? So then the question is, how do they appear? As Min said, it's not necessarily, Min, that they appear permanent, although some things look, stable, like my mug, you might say, oh yeah, that's permanent. But many things that we perceive and we can understand are impermanent. The atoms are moving within them, or the train is moving, or someone is running or something. We recognize that they're impermanent. But the sense of in true existence is that they appear to exist from their own side, and our mind believes that is true. That is, as Shanka mentioned, it's a theoretical synonym of inherent existence, true existence, existing from its own side. Do you know why I say theoretical synonym?
Because they're different and different. The meanings are different based on your view of what tenet you hold, right?
Oh, that's not the main reason. Was it, Doris, were you thinking? Did you have an? So if two things are synonyms, they have to exist. In the definition, in the philosophical teachings of Buddhism, if two things are synonyms, they both have to exist. Does inherent existence exist? Shanka?
No.
Leah, do you think does inherent true existence exist?
So I think that Shanka's right because I kind of lost my train of thought, but no, he's correct. And that's why I think that emptiness would be the only, it's my thought that emptiness is the only thing that has inherent existence.
Oh, okay.
But I don't even agree with that really myself,
Yeah.
because you still have to be the observer. Even emptiness wouldn't have inherent existence.
Okay, good. You came to that conclusion at the end. And nothing has inherent existence. Even emptiness does not have inherent existence because
Right.
inherent existence does not exist.
Even the Buddha does not have inherent existence, right?
You'll be a good missionary for Buddhism, yeah.
So, like, what are we doing here? Kind of, you could kind of go to that nihilistic place, like in some
Okay,
ways.
so the question is, what's going on here? Things look like they're true. We say, yeah, the tree, yeah, it's there, out there, existing without me having to do anything, without me having to hear the tree and fall in the forest. Right? The tree is just there. But to a Buddha's mind, there is nothing out there in existing from its own side. There is just the continuity of dependent arising in its more fundamental sense, existing from beginningless time, karma and so forth. Because of our karma, the world appears to us in a certain way. We see trees. When we see a pool of water, it appears to us, let's say in the country, a clear pool of water that appears to us as limpid and pure and clear. But to a preta, a hungry ghost, does anyone know how that water appears? What we call water, what that appears? James, do you know how does a preta see a pool of water?
To drink, if he's a hungry ghost, yes?
They may see it as pus and blood when they get close. From the distance, that might be appealing because they're thirsty. They haven't had water in a long time. That's why they're called hungry ghosts, thirsty ghosts. When they get close, it appears to be pus and blood. The same phenomenon appears differently according to your karma. It appears in all of those cases of ordinary beings, it appears to be existing from its own side that way. It's actually that appearance is actually false. So inherent existence does not exist. It is false. True existence does not exist. Natural existence does not exist. Existence from its own side does not exist. That's why I said they're theoretical synonyms. To be synonyms, they would have to exist. Do you get it?
So then,
they're hypothetical synonyms. Nadine, did you have a comment? Were you going to say something? No, okay. Can't see if anyone else has a thought. So, true existence, what's the sense of that? Like the neighbor that we come to realize his false smile, his false friendship, he's trying to trick us. We would say they are false. They're a falsity, right? They're not true. So they don't, so from a higher philosophical view in Buddhism, something that is true means that the way that it appears is in accordance with how it actually exists. Like the neighbor, is the neighbor true, or the person who's telling you something that that COVID is not infectious, that so forth and so on. Is that true or not? Does it actually exist the way that it appears? If something exists the way that it appears, it is true. It is a truth. If something does not exist the way that it appears, it is false. It is a falsity. So let me ask you this. What is true? Is true existence true? That is, the appearance that phenomena can be found somewhere in the way that they exist, the way they appear. No, true existence is not true. It appears to be true, but it is actually false. What is the only thing that's true? Nadine, okay, come on.
The ultimate reality.
Ultimate reality, emptiness, selflessness. Yeah. That's the only, they're synonyms. They are actually synonyms because they do exist. Okay, true existence does not exist. So it can't be the synonym. This is just a hypothetical synonym of inherent existence. But emptiness, ultimate reality, ultimate truth, selflessness, these are actual synonyms, and they are the only things that are actually true. Everything else appears one way and actually exists in a different way. The way that phenomena exist is that they're empty of inherent existence. That is true. The way they appear is different. Why do they appear differently? Because of our mind's continuity in previous lifetimes, familiarizing with this belief. Not only that alone, but because of the ignorance in our mind from beginningless time, to our senses, to our minds, phenomena seem to be existing from their own side. They seem to be true, the way that they appear to us. So there's two different things going on here. The way things appear and the way our mind reacts to that appearance. So the example I give a lot of times, who's the oldest person here besides me, male? James or Victor? How old are you, Victor?
I'll be 68.
68. James, how old are you?
76.
Okay, you're older. Okay, so in Christmas, if James puts on the Santa costume, puts a couple pillows, you look pretty thin, puts a couple of pillows underneath the red jacket, puts a beard on and a hat, comes down the stairs with a bag over his shoulders for the grandkids. He appears to be Santa Claus, right?
Yes.
Well,
Yes. Yes.
oh, okay. Your audio is breaking up. Yes, appears. So the kids who don't know reality, they might know James if he didn't have the costume on, but in their excitement, he looks to be Santa Claus, and they believe that, right? They believe it is true. The adults or say the teenagers who saw him putting on the costume, see what looks like Santa Claus. They say, yeah, that looks like it's pretty good, James. They see what appears to be Santa Claus, but they don't believe it. They don't grasp to that as true, right? That would be like a person who has realized emptiness. They see phenomena that appear to be true, but they know that they're not true. You follow? Make sense? To a Buddha, what would the Buddha, to the Buddhist mind, it doesn't even appear that way. The Buddha only sees conventional phenomena like trees and houses and Santa Claus and so forth by knowing the minds of sentient beings, how they appear to sentient beings. Does it make sense? Capish? Capito? A capito? No? Leah, you're saying you don't understand.
No, would you just say it again, please?
Yeah. So 3 kinds of observers of James coming down the stairs to Santa Claus. The kids see what appears to be Santa Claus and they believe it's Santa Claus. Oh, Santa Claus. The adults and teenagers see what appears to be Santa Claus, but they know it's not Santa Claus. They know it's false. So the kids are like us, childish beings. We see phenomena that appear to be truly existent and we believe it. You know, there's real happiness, there's real wealth, there's real something to be gained. The bodhisattvas are like even the hearers and solitary realizers who've realized emptiness, they're like the teenagers and the adults in the room that see James coming down the steps. It looks to be real, but they know that it's not real. They know it's not really Santa Claus. In meditative equipoise, nothing appears to them. To the bodhisattva, let's say, to the bodhisattva, not the kids and the people in the room, but I'm talking about bodhisattva. When they see phenomena, trees and houses and cars and persons, when they're not in meditative equipoise on emptiness, still because of habitual imprints in our minds since beginningless time, they appear to be truly existent. They appear to exist from their own sides. But like an illusion, they realize, because they've realized emptiness previously, they realize they're actually empty of that. Susie.
I missed a bit because of the kids. You said bodhisattva then. Did you mean Buddha, or am I really Buddhas, or am I really confused?
So yeah, I gave 3 examples before.
Sorry.
Ordinary beings that have not realized emptiness, beings who have realized emptiness, like Arya bodhisattvas. It doesn't have to be only bodhisattvas, could be hearers and solitary realizers who in meditation have realized emptiness. They know that phenomena do not inherently exist. But when they open their eyes, when they arise from that meditation, phenomena still appear to be truly existent. That's something that's only eliminated, the appearance of true existence, only eliminated when we achieve omniscience, when we become Buddha. The only time phenomena don't appear to be truly existent is when we're in meditative equipoise on emptiness, even before we're a Buddha. Only thing that appears is emptiness. Nothing, no Santa Claus, no trees, no cars, only the understanding at that point that phenomena do not exist truly, that they do not exist inherently from their own side.
I don't want to take us off course, but
Okay.
I didn't think that you had to have realized emptiness to be a bodhisattva.
You're right. I said Arya Bodhisattva here, someone
Oh, okay.
who realized emptiness. So that was maybe a bad choice of words on my side to say Bodhisattva. Someone who's realized emptiness
Okay.
in meditative equipoise. They have confidence that phenomena do not exist inherently or truly. Let's say they realize so in their meditative equipoise, they've meditated on the self and how it appears to be somehow findable, really tangible, inherently existent. They recognize that how that appears to the mind, and through logic, through reasoning, they've proved and developed certainty that it does not exist that way, that we are actually empty of such a self. We are actually selfless of that kind of self that seems to be appearing from its own side. When they arise from that meditation, they're confident that that self doesn't exist, but then immediately the self seems to appear to them. It's almost like chuckling, like, oh my gosh, is that amazing? You know, I know it doesn't exist, but here it's appearing. So an analog of that in dream. If you are not in what people call a lucid dream, if you're in the dreaming state, do things seem to be real? That dream? What do you think? Anyone have a doubt about that? Doris, Nadine, Victor? No, you don't. They don't seem to be real in the dream?
No, contrary.
No doubt.
I believe in lucid dreams.
Say again?
I agree there. I believe in lucid dreams. I understand that.
Okay, so lucid dreams means that in the dream, you realize you're dreaming, right? That's the sense of lucid dream?
That it feels real in that dream. Everything looks and feel and exists as if it's real, but it's not because it's a
Okay,
dream.
so you're using lucid dream in a different sense. That the dream looks very clear. You know, the dog is chasing you, even you're in your bed, your partner or whoever is seeing you might be shaking, you say, keep away. Or, you know, Lama Yeshe used to give the example when he was studying at Sarah Monastery and very, very hungry, not having enough food and so forth, he would dream about eating butter. And when he awoke, his body would be satisfied. There's some kind of physical reaction even from the dream. You know, you might be shaking in your dream. You might wake up afraid, or you might wake up very pleased. You just embraced Richard Gere in your dream or something like that. It can even have some physical impact on you. What is it called? I can't remember. If a man can have an orgasm in their dream. What is that called? I can't remember. Some kind of something emission. So dreams can look so real, but when you wake from that dream, you think, oh, there was no dog. There was no, that was just, we say, just a dream, right? Merely a dream. It didn't really exist. Follow? If a person has realized emptiness in meditative equipoise, it's like being awake. They see how things are. When they arise from that, that's kind of like the dream state. They still appear to be real, but they recognize that the person who's realized emptiness previously recognizes these are just like a dream. They seem so real, but in the waking state, it's like realizing emptiness, I know they don't exist. Follow? Charlene, what do you think?
So it's kind of like a lucid dream.
Well, a lucid dream, yeah, a lucid dream in the sense, not the sense that Victor was saying. Victor was saying lucid dream would mean things are very clear. It looks like they're real. A lucid dream, from a Buddhist perspective, is a practice that you can have when you recognize you're dreaming. In the dream, you know you're dreaming and you know it's not real, but it looks so real. It's like a little bit of just having awoken from the dream. And, oh man, it looks so real. That dog was chasing me, or Richard Gere was, kissing me, or whatever. I won the prize. And then you won the lottery, and then you wake up and say, oh, I didn't win the lottery. It was just a dream, right? A lucid dream would be when that recognition you're dreaming is present while you're dreaming. That can be practiced, that can be cultivated. So as you're falling asleep, making a very strong motivation, prayers, or praying to Manjushri, or some aspect of the Buddha. Please, may I be aware in the dream that I'm dreaming. Through familiarity, that's usually in psychology what's called lucid dreaming, that you recognize that you are dreaming in the dream. That is a very useful tool to someone who has some insight into emptiness, because you can see, wow, this is just, I know this thing's looks like the dog's chasing me. It looks like someone's cutting me with a knife, or I'm eating, I've won the lottery or this, but I know it's not real. This is what a bodhisattva experiences, or let's say a bodhisattva, someone who's realized emptiness, when they arise from that meditation on emptiness, how the world appears to them. It's like, oh my gosh, this looks so real, but I know it's not. It's like that lucid dream. Capito? O capita? Susie.
And when they fully realize that, is it not possible to go back?
Go back to what?
Well, like, I'll keep my voice down, but I know that Father Christmas isn't real, so I can't ever feel like he is.
Thank you. You didn't want your kids to hear that you know Father Christmas is not real. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
One of them. But so I can't make myself believe that anymore. So I suppose what I'm saying is, once you, yeah, well, I could have a go, but I don't really believe it. So what I'm saying is, once you fully, really, really got that, not just intellectually, once
you have a realization of it, yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like I have many realizations, but I'm obviously misunderstanding the word realization, because every time I hear it, I feel like I have a aha moment, which is delightful, but I'm obviously miles away from it. So when you fully realize it, you can't ever go.
We can have an insight into emptiness, which means that there's still some misconception mixed in our mind. That's not a realization yet. A realization takes place when we have eliminated all of the misunderstandings that we have through reasoning, through logic, and our own experience. There are various elements. When it says in the verse, it says, make effort in means to comprehend dependent arising, or, so what are the means to realize it? Using logic, and also scriptural citations, the explanations from our teachers, the Dalai Lamas, the Lama Zopa Rinpoches in the world that have realized emptiness, and in their explanations, based on what the Buddha said in the scriptures, in the sutras, what Nagarjuna said, the great expositor about emptiness in the in the early days of Buddhism. Based on those quotations and your own logic, you can start to eliminate misconceptions about emptiness and finally have first of all, let's say a correct belief in it. This is what will come up in our Logrig class. Those of you who are interested to delve more in this, you can catch up the first lesson on YouTube sometime this week and follow later. First of all, you have a misconception, wrong view, that things really exist the way that they appear. Then you have, when you've investigated or heard about emptiness, you have a doubt. Maybe phenomena don't exist the way that they appear as inherently existent. Maybe they do exist that way. I don't know. I'm not sure. Finally, when you go further, you have a doubt leading in the right direction. They probably don't exist truly. You haven't realized it yet, but you have a doubt leading in the right direction. Then you have what's called an assumption. You've gone beyond doubt, but you haven't realized it yet, but you just, it's like a correct belief. Oh yeah, past lives exist. That's probably where most of us are right now. We haven't realized the existence of past lives, but maybe we have a correct belief. Oh yeah, I believe, we haven't realized it yet. Then you can go beyond that with respect to emptiness, a correct belief in emptiness. You can actually have a realization of that. When you've eliminated all of the misconceptions in our mind, that is called a realization. It doesn't have to be a direct realization. It can be an intellectual realization through logic. We can enhance that more and more and more and eventually have a direct realization of emptiness. When the only thing that appears to our mental consciousness in meditation is the mere lack of inherent existence, what's called space-like meditation on emptiness. So this is what I've been trying to provide to you in these couple of lectures about emptiness, and will in the following weeks, is some kind of general facts and background material, so you can get you can start to eliminate some misconceptions and start to center on a correct understanding of emptiness. To really understand emptiness, we'll talk a little bit more next time. We just reached the end of our period here. You have to recognize how phenomena appear to be inherently existent. That's called recognizing the object of negation. Because phenomena do not exist inherently. They do not exist truly the way that they appear. They do not exist from their own side. But you have to recognize how they're appearing, and that's difficult to do. The doorway to recognizing that is to recognize it with respect to personal identity, yourself. Recognize in meditation, like our meditation on the clear light nature of the mind, ask yourself, how does the self appear to my mind? It's very, very subtle. You have to instigate it. Like, remember some time when you were when someone falsely accused you. Shanka, you owe me $100. Shanka, you're a thief. Yeah, that's better. Shanka, you're a thief. You're a liar. At that point, you don't think my body is a thief. You don't think my mind is a thief. You think I'm being accused as a thief. I am not a thief. At that point, the I, the appearance of an inherently existent I appears to your consciousness. So you have to inculcate that at first, how the I seems to be appearing there, not as your body, not as your mind, just as inherently existing without being labeled. That's the first step in actually realizing selflessness and emptiness, to recognize the object of negation that you're going to refute through logic. So we'll talk a little bit about that again next time. Before we finish, any questions or comments or observations, clarifications? You okay? James, you okay? Oh, you okay? So let's do a brief dedication and meditation. Remember the calmness of your mind, the clear light nature of your mind. Let go of your other thoughts. Within that clear state of mind, it's like cleaning off your table to do the tax return. So nothing else, you can concentrate on that. Getting rid of the coffee cups and other stuff on the table. We have created some virtuous karma this morning, which will definitely have a result within cyclic existence in my experience in the future. I want to dedicate this, like dedicating your income tax return, the refund from the government or whatever. Dedicate this to a particular goal, to my achieving of enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. This is what's called conventional dedication. And we can say it in words. Shanka, are you ready?
Sure.
Real dedication is mental like this, but we can say it verbally. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all sentient beings without exception, each and every living being, into that enlightened state. And the next verse is not actually a dedication, it's a prayer. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen rise and grow, and may that which has arisen already not diminish, but increase more and more. If you could make it in a dedication by saying, due to these merits, may the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. And long life prayers for Lama Zopa, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serves as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. And His Holiness, wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in the world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, may your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. It's not so much beseeching the Dalai Lama for his wishes to be fulfilled. We're wishing that his wishes would be fulfilled, mainly through subduing our own negativities and the negativities and imprints, negative imprints in the minds of sentient beings that prevent his wishes from being fulfilled. Finally, Venerable One, to you whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors, for those wanderers in far-off places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us in intentionally descending again into a family of a far distant land, we make this request. O Lama, please, please live long. And for Geshe Sherab, who's recovering still, beloved teacher, leading your students toward wisdom and compassion, explaining through exacting discernment the steps of the stages of the path, the graduated path. You are the unequaled guide. Please live a long and stable life. So thank you. Nice to see your smiling faces. Congratulations to New Mexico, where Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic just had its flight just before class. They went up outside, just to the edge of space, and they landed just minutes before our class this morning. So you all feel proud. New Mexico. I think it was near Truth or Consequences, somewhere near White Sands. If you didn't hear already, you can watch the video later. So see you next week. If you're interested in going more depth, we'll continue with low rig on Saturday mornings, which you can find on the website. And have a good week.